Good morning. We are here to talk about the NASW-TX Perception Survey Results and Branding Consideration. It was put together by the NASW-TX Branding Subcommittee in the fall of 2022. My name is Dr. Constance Siegel. I am an LCSWS. And then here with me today to present is Allison Peeler. Allison, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Allison Peeler Mitchell. I'm LMSW. I work as a senior content manager with an education company, and I am a part of the Texoma branch.
Thank you, Allison. So we're going to dive right in. So this is our perception survey overview, and we began with an assessment. So the pilot subcommittee developed a pilot survey to answer the question, what is the perception of NASW Texas among Texas social workers? The purpose of the report is to use the data to inform and strengthen the chapter's brand and membership recruitment and retention strategies. The results and recommendations within the report are meant to ensure NASW Texas' unique voice and personality. We hope that these survey insights and branding recommendations will only serve to strengthen the excellent work that we already do. So our pilot survey was again designed by the subcommittee. You have some of our survey goals here. So we wanted to strengthen and identify, as you can see, to enhance, elevate, and deliver. And we were looking for actionable feedback and branding recommendations that could be used in a very tangible way. So our survey results, we're going to jump right in there. So let me tell you a little bit about the survey itself. It was distributed to 13,000 social workers across the state, both members and non-members, as well as we included students. On January 13th, 2022, 302 responses were captured. Now, 99% of respondents were professional social workers or social work students, although we did have a lower social work student participation. More than half were active members, that was 52%. And over a quarter of respondents, or 27%, were members in the past but did not renew. Membership is obviously an important topic, and we'll start by sharing the topic perceptions of the chapter, both positive and negative, and then move into other survey results. So as you can see here, our top three attributes that respondents perceived about NASW Texas was 57% said we were an advocate, 47% said a trusted resource, and 43% said supportive. Social justice was another strong leader. It came in fourth at 30%. So as you can see, those are some very positive words. Other choices that we found, other words that were presented were friendly, unhelpful, we can get more on that, unsupportive, valuable, one-sided, adversarial, and tone deaf. And as you can hear, definitely those are some things we want to work on. I will take just a moment to say here, and probably reiterate it again later, this survey was specifically directed and voiced NASW Texas and not national, for we were looking at local information. So there are some limitations of our study. So number one, we yielded a small response rate, only 2%. So it can't really be generalized across all Texas social workers, but it does give us a really good snapshot of what was going on. We attempted to engage students, as I said before, but we're not as successful as we would have hoped. We identified several common themes that may be useful for NASW Texas strategic considerations. And they do provide a good baseline measure that can be improved and redistributed to Texas social workers in the future. Now, what social workers love about NASW? Number one, we want this because we want to capitalize on ed. Membership feedback found that people are proud of NASW Texas and willing to encourage others to join. It's an important attribute, but there appears to be a lack of clarity about the benefits of joining, and then the cost can be prohibitive for some individuals. People need to feel connected to the organization. If they are, then there's no question about wanting to join. Now, 70% of our respondents would be likely to recommend NASW to a fellow social worker, and that is a strong finding. However, there was also a strong showing of no opinion, which was 22%, and 26% of no opinion when we ask about value of membership. So this high percentage demonstrates an apathy or lack of professional connection towards membership and perceived benefit. So that's definitely something we would recommend you addressing. The top 3 perceived benefits revolve around topics of professional growth and connection to the profession. So what don't they love? Chief reasons for non-membership, which was cost. When 52% of our respondents, it was definitely cost. And then the second, in 22%, was they don't know what NASW does. Additionally, 57% of respondents said that they believe social workers only, quote, somewhat, end quote, know what NASW does or is and what it does. And only 21% answered social workers, quote, definitely, end quote, know what NASW Texas does. We have some opportunities for growth there. Now, 11% reported that they started out as a student member, but they did not renew upon graduation. And finally, 9%, and this is an interesting total to pay attention to, 9% felt unrepresented politically. So negative responses worth examining. On the other end of the attribute spectrum, almost a third of respondents, or 29%, chose at least one negative characteristic to describe NASW Texas. So it's important to kind of take note of this and that finding. Now, these attributes may not represent the majority, but if there is anything actionable that can be done to reconcile these issues, which we'll talk about in the next session, it would likely do well to promote an overall feeling of trust and affinity for NASW Texas. Again, one of the things that we want to mention here and remind you, this was a survey specifically designating NASW Texas, was clearly denoted. Therefore, we can't consider these totals to be result of national apathy. So our survey summary. So based on the results, NASW Texas is viewed as supportive and trustworthy organization that advocates for social workers and the people they serve overwhelmingly. But social workers do struggle to feel connected to the organization itself. And the desire for connection and community were the most prevalent non-cost related themes impacting perception of NASW Texas and membership. So I'm going to talk for just a moment about brand voice and our style. So brand voice is what builds connection and trust. So how do we use this data to enhance our impact on the Texas social work community and increase membership? So in part, we can develop a strong brand voice. A strong brand voice is going to do several things. It's going to help us stand out. When you only have 7 seconds to make an impression, so it's important that there are consistent, concise, insightful, and we leave an impact. We need to build trust and loyalty. When our voice is consistent, our audience will recognize our work as distinctively NASW Texas. We need to support and elevate the profession of social work and clarify the mission and vision. People expressed apathy and lack of clarity about what NASW, both national and state, does. So we need to make sure the mission and vision shine through consistently, and that will help solidify what we're doing. And all of these things are going to serve to build a connection because it gives people something to expect. As we said before, survey respondents viewed NASW Texas as a supportive and trustworthy organization that advocates for social workers and the people they serve. The 4th place edition of Social Justice Leader attribute demonstrate that this is something people value highly and experience when thinking about NASW Texas. Messaging, imaging, and styling should all represent the mission of NASW Texas while seeking to include a tone and language that conveys these attributes. So what we would encourage you to do or offer some suggestions is strive to embed these themes in everything you put out. For example, on the website, emails, social media, press releases, advocacy updates, even in-person events or chapter activities, and then of course on phone calls or one-offs with communications with members. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Allison, who's going to give you some examples of brand voice.
Thank you so much, Constance. And just to reiterate, sort of the purpose of all of this was originally developed as a part of the NASW-TX's strategic plan, and looking at, how we use brand in a social work context. That's not something that we typically talk about, but it's vital, and it sort of permeates through everything from what you think about as traditional marketing. If you do think about that, it matters. It matters how we get perceived. And it also matters in terms of our brand is more than just those marketing pieces. It's like, those interactions, those day-to-day. So while a lot of this that we're sharing with you is, this is specifically about the NASW-TX's strategic plan and was geared towards NASW-TX's, these are things you can hopefully take away, at a personal or agency level and think about how to implement them. What's your brand voice look like? So just something to think about as we go into this next phase of the presentation, which is sort of like action. So that's the setup. This is what the survey looked like and told us. These are the things that people chose when we asked what you think of NASW-TX's brand voice. And now what the heck do we do with that? So we'll start by showing a couple of examples of what each of these top attributes might look like in writing. Because what does it mean? We start to think about like how we use these kinds of insights, that we're a supportive advocate for social workers, and that we are seen, NASW-TX is seen as trustworthy among social workers. But what is that? How does that translate into something real, something tangible? So we've got a couple of words in here that hit on the supporter, caring, encouraging, selfless kind of theme. Constance, do you see a couple in there that look like they might be good, supportive terms and language?
Yeah, I think understanding the intrinsic value of our role in education is pivotal for this.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got here, we're here to help. We care about you and we hear your concerns. So those phrases are all, and these don't ever have to be exact. These are all sort of just examples of what this can look like, but that's the language that you can use. That's the way you can implement into your writing about your program in an email communication with a client or fellow provider. As a representative of social work, of Texas social work, and, of the people that we serve, it's vital to sort of think through, like, what's the overarching message that we're putting out into the world. So let's try a second one. When we think about being trustworthy, sort of some sub themes there, being an authentic and confident leader. So the example here, I don't think I read the first one, but I'll read this one just for kicks. Social workers are expected to be a lot of things, but one of the most challenging roles is that of policy expert. You can trust us to help you make sense of policy changes, rule updates, and licensure requirements so you can stay in the know with ease. Here are the highlights of recent web changes, and then you could direct people to the website. So what are a couple of our buzzwords, our key phrases in here, Constance, that you see?
Yeah, so I think that trust really stands out in this one. The other thing that I think that stands out here is reiterating what we do, which was one of those earlier findings. So here are the policy changes, here are the rules updates and the licensure requirements. So I think that really pings back on some of those earlier findings. And it does, as Allison's just highlighted here, highlights the changes and lets our consumers be more informed.
Absolutely. Yep. And even just sharing, here are the highlights. That doesn't sound like maybe expressly trustworthy, but we're expressing that we are an authority on the topic, that we are providing some expertise, some guidance, and therefore sort of in the space of a thought leader or, and in that space. So our third example is that of the advocate, which you can think of as, maybe compassionate, brave. NASW-TX represents social workers like you from all across the state. We're here to advocate for social work's professional recognition, speak up for you and those you serve, and defend our professional values every day. So what do you think here, Constance? What stands out to you?
So I think what stands out to me here is, of course, advocate, and that we are speaking up, and that but the main picture for me and the main takeaway in this is defending our professional values. Now, I think if we go back to some of those earlier totals and stats, what we see is there's always going to be a portion of our social workers that are more conservative leaning, that may not align with some of our stereotypical values or ethics as we have them. But I think that we need to find a way to bridge some gaps while we're defending our professional values, so that we can be encompassing of all social workers, regardless of their personal ethics and beliefs.
Absolutely. And all of these ideas or these examples, that we've got, I think, do also sort of do that. We're leaning towards an ideal here, because that's a really great point. That's something that came up in the survey a couple of times. My political beliefs aren't reflected. I'm not really sure that I'm being heard. And, the social work code of ethics guides, obviously, all of our decision making. It informs our, policies and belief structure and everything. But there, like Constance shared, there was a request a couple of times, even if it was a small minority, to make sure that we're a little bit more inclusive in the way that we approach some of those things. So always a fine line, but something to consider. And, in making communications and your brand, if that's what you want your brand to be, is equitable, then sort of leaning in with that mentality about things. So just a quick note on branded imagery. What does that look like or mean or feel? First off, I understand that there's irony to the fact that we're using stock photography, and I'm about to say minimize stock photography, but it's a necessary evil. We all have to use it at some point or another. But for the purposes of, just sort of explaining high level what branded imagery is and looks and feels like, it's a visual experience. That's critical in brand expression. So just as important as the words and the way that you describe your business, your profession, your organization, what have you, is how it looks, how you're visually relating to people. Keep it authentic, make it match your brand attributes, whatever those attributes are for you, for your brand. You want them to align. Be inclusive, but not contrived. So that's a big and hard one. I said earlier, I'm a senior content manager, which I translatably is a marketing role. I used to work in mental health, sort of shifted gears to nonprofit marketing, and then ended up in education marketing, and I've loved it. But one of the things that comes up a lot in education marketing is, making sure that you represent a wide swath of different types of students. But you can't just be like, sort of cherry picking to get the right mix of students and the right photo and everything, because people see right through that. You want photos to feel real and reflective, and especially for social workers and the work that we do and our organizations do, it's really, really important that it doesn't feel phony, or because all of that creates that disconnection that people were sort of alluding to in the survey results, not feeling connected, wanting to feel connected, and sort of still like striving. There was that gap there. Minimal use of stock photography. If you are able to use photos of real people in your organization, if you're able to use real people that are, a part of your organization, either board members or in some cases clients. I know that gets dicey for some folks in some areas, no problem. Use your best judgment for all of that, or what legally you can do, but to the best of your ability, keep it real. People appreciate that. We're in digital age, everybody sees right through the, inauthentic, whatever it is. So just keep that in mind. Be consistent in photo style. Here you see that all of these photos have a sort of warm vibe. The color scheme sort of matches. There's different settings and scenarios. Some of it is detail imagery, like the hands, writing on the clipboard. And then you've got people in some of the other pictures. So you can mix and match. You don't have to have all people just because we are a people-centric profession. You can have sort of a visual, differentiation there. And that helps people stay engaged. It helps people understand a little bit more. And these are little things that might seem insignificant, but they mean a whole lot when you're thinking about how you are perceived. And that's what, this is all what we shared with NASW-TX too. These are all just general rules of thumb for our best practices across branding strategies. So back to the survey a little bit. We talked with NASW-TX about what we learned in terms of what they can do better as far as the survey. And again, we just want to say that we think they are awesome and doing great work, but there's always room for growth. And these are things that came directly from survey respondents. So desire for NASW-TX is to be louder, more visible in the social work professional space. We want to hear, we want to highlight social work stories and impact. People, even social workers, don't necessarily all know who and what NASW-TX is and what it does. So better explanation of, some of those things. Storytelling is so important. So sharing, a little bit more about the who. And again, understanding there are limitations to how specific and how detailed people can get, but you can be a little bit general and leave out specific identifiers and still tell a story about a person. And that's going to go much further in sharing who and what your organization really is and what you're about, rather than sort of just like bulleting list items of what your organization provides in terms of services. So that was the same thing that people said for NASW-TX's. A need for a better explanation of benefits to non-members and members alike. There were a lot of people who were members and still made comments about, they weren't 100% sure what all the value was or what they got, but they still wanted to be a part. And when Constance was talking about the summary sort of statement that what we learned, that was a really, really important part. People feel like they really want to be connected and are just missing some of that key information, that key connector. So promoting all practice setting, this is another place where we can be more inclusive, making sure that there are a sort of a equitable split of the very, very many places that social workers can work. And so saying it that way, obviously we understand there's so many places. I mean, I'm a social worker in education marketing. And I tell everyone that I'm a social worker and how important that is to the, like what I bring to the table in understanding people and communication and how to talk to people and relate and bring people in. And those are things that social workers are really good at. And that's just a few of the sort of overlap and connection. And I think there's a lot of folks that we're looking for ways to say like how my social work expertise relates in this particular job or this particular job. And there's just all kinds of ways to split that, but wanting to make sure people mention not wanting to feel so clinically focused, feeling like there wasn't enough attention to LMSWs, school social workers, that one came up a couple of times. Advocating for better pay, that comes up all the time. That's a very common theme and that's very important. That's near and dear to my heart personally. And I'm sure, and I know Constance's too. We want to make sure that's what people were requesting, that they really want to hear more, sort of standing up and fighting for more equitable pay among social workers across the profession. Another note on political inclusivity, and those really are things that, and the promoting all practice settings that sort of speak to diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives that are really important. We hear those buzzwords all the time these days, but they're especially important for social workers. Thinking about whether or not we're leaving people out in our agency communications and who we interact with, that people feel included. And then to add to that, need better outreach, inclusive practices to low income and underrepresented groups among social workers. Sometimes, we experience some of the things that we're serving people for. That's real life. And it's important for everyone to get the opportunity, the same equity that we provide to our clients and to the folks and communities that we serve, we do for each other. That's a really important theme there. And then finally, some notes on customer service came up a couple of times. There were several experiences that people mentioned where they didn't have great, they either had non-response or they didn't get, maybe a conference refund when they had an emergency that came up 24 hours before the event. There weren't accommodations for nursing mothers at one of the conferences a couple of years back. And those experiences left folks maybe having a sense of that they felt that there was a lack of empathy or coldness, and that was something there was a desire to change. And these simple things, such as, ensuring calls or emails get returned and providing accommodations at events, will enhance our brand and the trust that social workers have in NASW-TX to have their back. So all of those little things, those all have to do with the brand. It sounds like, it's just a marketing term, but it's really something that encompasses all of us. It's our perception. It's how people see us and how we meet the world. So something that, is relevant even in in the social work profession. So we got a lot of feedback. Suggestions came out of every shape and size, but the two most common themes were engagement and support, which again comes back to that idea about connection. So we don't need to read through every single one of these, but some of the highlights there, making sure that we are connected on LinkedIn was a great suggestion that we got. Professionals are out there and looking to connect. There's huge social work networks and groups on LinkedIn. And so that's a really strong place to, for us to meet up and connect. Solicit annual priorities for members and stick to them. And enhance coordination and communication with higher ed. Like we mentioned that we did make an attempt, and this is growing. This is something that's growing and changing. We have, there's a student engagement coordinator now at NASW-TX, which is awesome. And she's doing a great job at really making those connections. But that was something that people noted, was making sure that we're, involving students in schools of social work in all things NASW-TX. Connecting with retired social workers. I really love that one. There were a number of folks that responded that really had a desire to remain connected, to have some activities and things like that designed to, keep them just as much included as some of the members who are actively practicing. And then support brief, sort of concise explanations of BHEC updates. I know those come into my inbox and they feel wild. There's a lot of numbers and, codes and everything. And they sort of do that kind of legalese it always feels like trickery to me. And this is something not BHEC. This is something generally policy related, like that's just my feeling about it. When I see it in human readable terms, I'm like, oh, okay, I see why that should matter to me now. And I appreciate that insight. Decoupling PAC contribution requests from legislative briefs. That was another place where there's an opportunity for some political inclusivity. Folks that saw that felt like they were sort of being asked to support whatever that policy, that legislation was, even if they didn't, but they wanted to support the PAC, that it didn't align for them. So the ethics hotline, I'll just touch on really briefly. That came up. We talked about it in the group, and 2 people said, "Isn't that a thing? Don't we have that?" I think that's, something that one of the equity committees they handle, or that goes here or there. And so we thought it was really important from a what does NASW-TX do benefits perspective, that even among this group of people who were actively engaged with NASW-TX, we were unsure. So there are equity committees that are sort of being restarted. And some of these things, maybe were issues that came up as a result of COVID, because there were a lot of groups and things that were moving and happening. And for all of us, a lot of things got put on hold. So I think that we'll have more information about that, more clarity, but that was something that came up. And then establishing peer advocates that serve as NASW-TX's ambassadors in their communities and or schools. And that sort of bridged the gap across the engagement support ideals. So general branding recommendations. None of these things are sort of like these are just general rules of thumb across branding and marketing tactics and best practices. Consistency is always the key. Follow your branding guidelines for your agency. If there aren't any, establish them. Want to make sure that everything feels consistent. And these, again, are geared towards NASW-TX. These are things that we talked about with them, but these are relevant in their own way for on the individual and agency level as well. Audit communications. So what are people receiving from you? Are they receiving anything from you? Do they know that you are there? We cannot continue to do all of this amazing work with our heads down. It is important to share the great, awesome things and outcomes that you're having for your clients, because all of that serves to, bolster and enhance our professional brand as social workers, letting people know what we do. But in terms of marketing and branding, you want to see does your user journey feel really fragmented? Are people easily going to be confused by the content they're receiving from you? Do your messages look very sort of scattered? Are they confusing? Are you using similar headers that look the same across every email? Are you making sure your logo is there? Those kinds of things. Is it all duplicative? Are you sending the same thing 3 times in a month? Be mindful of accessibility. That's a really big deal. We just want to make sure that all of our communications, no matter what they are, across print, digital, in person, and virtual, are set up to be accessible. PDFs on the web are inherently inaccessible. You can do things to increase accessibility of PDFs. Make sure to do those things. Same with PowerPoint, same with email communication, same with photos. If you use them on social media, make sure you use alt text. We would really, again, this is a great opportunity. Social workers are inclusive by nature. That's a part of our, I'd say, of our profession, or what people expect or think about social workers, is that we're there to help everyone. So we really want to lean into making sure that what we put out into the world is accessible. A few more topic-based recommendations we shared with NASW-TX. Policy updates. Connection matters more than detail. So people wanted to know how NASW-TX support social workers and their clients. How are you representing me in advocating for or against whatever policy? That's a question that you need to ask when you're sharing anything. How are you representing me or your agency or your community in what you are putting out? And we showed an example of how to potentially rewrite a headline to feel a little bit more connection driven. So we had the original there. NASW-TX's GR director testifies before House Public Education Committee. Okay, that is a fact that is reported. Connection driven opportunity. NASW Texas calls on Texas legislature to support school social work. That tells me exactly what the context was, who was being advocated for, and that, it shows what NASW Texas is doing every day to support the profession. And then a couple of notes on email. Again, when people wanted real story, they want real connection, they want to feel supported. So to sum it all up, follow your style guide. If you don't have one, make one. There's a lot of samples out on the internet. We're going to share some follow-up information. If you have questions about what that means or what that is, feel free to reach out. Use your brand voice, identify what that is, and it really helps to ask others what their perception of your brand is, and then decide if that aligns with what you want to put out into the world and go in that direction. If it's not, then think about how you can adjust what you're doing to align with what you want your brand to be. Show authentic, consistently styled imagery. Think about brand in every interaction that you have. It doesn't end. Marketing and branding don't end in print and digital communications. They're far beyond those things and sort of bleed into every interaction that we have with people. You may be the only, hopefully not, but you may be the only social worker somebody meets. So we want to lead with what we want social work to represent in the world. And with your mission and vision, make sure that that is very crystal clear. You don't have to put it on everything, but make sure that the content and the ideas and the things that you're doing move in line with what your mission and vision are, and keep it accessible. Some future considerations for perception surveys similar to this in the future. Refine and rerun the survey, conduct more of them. There may have been, we know a pandemic effect on responses. Some of the folks that said we didn't get responses, we called the office and nobody answered. Maybe nobody was there. Things were, arguably a little wild, and nobody said it was this date that this happened. So we don't really know that. Food for thought. It may look different the next time this survey is run. Partner with schools of social work and other social work organizations across Texas during CEU events, during NASW Texas statewide conference, to ensure more voices are heard, especially from students. We really want to bridge that gap there. And NASW Texas is doing great work in that area, but we all have a part to play there. Another example or another suggestion that was put forward was to conduct some focus groups to bring some more qualitative data into the mix to really expand our insights on this kind of survey and increase inclusivity. So that's what we have for you today. We really appreciate your time and hope you got a lot out of this presentation on branding and perceptions of NASW Texas, and that there are a lot of little nuggets in there that can be used in your personal and professional practice, as an individual practitioner, in your agency, etc. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to either contact me or Will at the NASW Texas office, and we'll be glad to help you out. Thank you so much.